Victorian fashion was so extreme that women's corsets could reduce their waist size by up to 10 inches. The average woman's natural waist was 27 to 29 inches, but society celebrated the ideal 18-inch waist, all while doctors raised concerns about breathing difficulties and circulation problems. If you enjoy these stories, hit subscribe. Also, drop your location in the comments. I'm always curious where everyone's listening from. We're heading to Victorian England in a minute. First though, get comfortable. Seriously, take a second, adjust whatever needs adjusting. You're not going to want to move once we start. The pressure around your ribs is the first thing you notice. Even before opening your eyes, you can feel it, like a giant hand squeezing your torso. Welcome to morning as a Victorian woman in 1870. You blink awake in a modest bedroom, lying on a horsehair mattress that crinkles when you shift. The room is cold, damn cold actually. The coal fire died hours ago and frost patterns decorate the inside of your window panes. Unlike your cozy blanket right now, the thin wool coverings barely trap any heat. Time to rise, ma'am. Your lady's maid, Agnes, has entered silently. She's already been up for hours, lighting fires, preparing your clothes, heating water. She looks exhausted, but that's not your concern right now. You have your own battle ahead. Is it really necessary today, you ask, eyeing the contraption Agnes is laying out on the dressing table. I'm only visiting Mother. Agnes gives you that look, the one that says, we have this conversation every morning. Your mother would be the first to notice if you weren't properly dressed, ma'am, she replies diplomatically. She's right, your mother would definitely notice and comment, and then tell everyone else she knows. The thought makes your stomach clench. The corset lies there like an instrument of torture, which honestly it basically is. Whalebone and steel designed to force your body into an impossible shape. Last week you heard about a woman whose corset was so tight that when she died they found her ribs had grown around it. Like a tree growing around a fence. Your body literally reshaping itself to accommodate this cage. Shall we begin? Agnes asks. First comes the chemise, a thin cotton undergarment that serves as a barrier between your skin and the corset. Then cotton drawers tied at the waist. Already you're warmer. Silver linings, I guess. Agnes holds the corset up against your torso. It's a well-made piece, custom fitted last year when you still had dreams of achieving an 18-inch waist. You're hovering around 20 inches now, which your husband has deemed acceptable. How generous of him. Deep breath, ma'am, Agnes warns. You inhale as much as possible, knowing that soon breathing deeply won't be an option. Agnes wraps the corset around your torso and begins the lacing process. The first few tugs are manageable, just a gentle pressure, but as Agnes works her way down, each pull becomes more restrictive. Your ribs compress, your lungs can't fully expand, your internal organs are literally shifting position. A bit tighter, ma'am. The blue dress needs a smaller waist. Just a bit more, you gasp. Agnes braces her foot against the bedpost for leverage, pulling the laces with all her strength. You grip the bedpost, knuckles white. Jesus, you mutter under your breath. How is this fashion? Language, ma'am, Agnes reminds you, but there's sympathy in her voice. She's not immune. She wears a corset too, though a cheaper, less restrictive version. The pressure required for your waist would prevent her from completing her physically demanding work. With a final tug, Agnes ties off the laces. You try to breathe and find you can only take shallow sips of air. Your lower ribs are compressed almost to meeting in the middle. There now. Beautiful, Agnes says, steering you toward the mirror. The transformation is undeniable. Your waist is impossibly small, creating that coveted hourglass figure. But at what cost? You already feel lightheaded, and you haven't even gone downstairs yet. Dr. Harrison's warning echoes in your mind. "These contraptions are slowly killing you, ladies," he'd said during your last visit for female troubles. Your mother had been scandalized, insisting he was being dramatic. But when he showed you those medical drawings, the way organs get crushed and displaced, you couldn't unsee it. The women in your circle dismiss such warnings. Men have always tried to control what we wear, your friend Elizabeth had said last week. First they want us in corsets, then they claim to want us out of them for our health. Make up your minds, gentlemen. You had laughed along, but privately wondered if maybe the doctors had a point. Your monthly courses had become irregular and painful since tightening your corset to please your husband, and that fainting spell at the Hendersons' dinner party last month, definitely from lack of oxygen. "Now, for the petticoats," Agnes announces, holding up what looks like enough fabric to sail a small ship. Layer by layer, Agnes builds your silhouette. First, the cotton petticoat, then 2 more made of heavier material. Already, you're carrying several pounds of fabric, all hanging from your compressed waist. Your lower back begins to ache in protest. "I was reading about this American woman," you tell Agnes as she works. Amelia Bloomer. She wears trousers under a shorter skirt. Can you imagine? Agnes looks scandalized. Trousers on a lady. What would the neighbours say? "That's exactly what my husband said," you sigh. "But think how much easier it would be to move, to breathe, to exist." "Easier isn't always proper, Mum," Agnes says diplomatically, though you can see a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. Next comes your bustle, a metal cage that attaches at your lower back, creating that fashionable posterior shelf that men supposedly find attractive. It adds another pound of weight and makes sitting a strategic challenge. You'll spend the day perching on the edges of chairs or standing until your feet throb. The blue dress goes on last, a beautiful creation of silk and lace with 57 tiny buttons down the back that poor Agnes must fasten one by one. By the time she's done, your back is ramrod straight, your waist is cinched to painful proportions, and your lungs can only expand by about half their capacity. "There," Agnes says with satisfaction, "you look like a proper lady." You study your reflection. Yes, you've achieved the ideal Victorian silhouette. Tiny waist, ample bosom, wide hips. The dress is beautiful, but already spots dance before your eyes from shallow breathing. Your ribs send shooting pains with every movement. And you know that by evening the flesh under your corset will be raw and chafed, possibly bleeding in spots. Is beauty worth this? Agnes brings your jewellery next, a cameo brooch from your husband, earrings from your father, and a delicate gold chain. These small personal touches are the only parts of your appearance truly under your control. "Oh, I almost forgot," Agnes says, retrieving a small bottle from your dressing table. "Your mother sent this over. She says all the ladies are using it for a youthful complexion." You examine the bottle. Dr. Campbell's Arsenic Complexion Wafers. "Arsenic?" you ask, alarmed. "Isn't that poison?" "In large doses, ma'am, but these are perfectly safe in small amounts. The lady down the street has been taking them for months and her skin is like porcelain. You've heard the rumours, though. The woman 3 doors down who took similar wafers and ended up with tremors in her hands. The socialite who died suddenly after using arsenic powders for years. I think I'll pass for today," you say, setting the bottle aside. Agnes looks worried. "Your mother will ask if you've tried them. Then let her ask." This small rebellion feels significant. You can't escape the corset. Not yet, anyway, but you can refuse to literally poison yourself for beauty. As Agnes styles your hair, you gaze out the window at the street below. A delivery boy races past on a bicycle, moving freely, breathing deeply. You feel a stab of envy so intense it takes you by surprise. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like," you ask Agnes suddenly, "to move through the world without all this?" Agnes pauses, hairpin in hand. Sometimes, ma'am, when I see my brother run across a field or climb a tree, she lowers her voice. And sometimes at night, I loosen my corset when no one's looking, just to remember what it feels like to take a real breath. This confession creates an unexpected moment of solidarity between you, two women separated by class but united by the same physical restrictions. Maybe someday, you say, though you don't finish the thought. Agnes adds the final touches to your hair, a complex arrangement of curls and twists that you couldn't possibly reproduce on your own, another way you're dependent on others just to present yourself acceptably to society. Ready to go downstairs, Mum? You nod, though ready isn't quite the word. You're armoured, packaged, presented, but definitely not comfortable or free. You stand carefully, feeling the weight of the fabrics, the squeeze of the corset, the pinch of two small shoes. The day stretches before you, a series of restrictive spaces, limited movements, shallow breaths, and careful social performances. And tomorrow you'll do it all again. As you make your way toward the door, you catch sight of a pamphlet on your writing desk, something your husband's progressive cousin had slipped to you at last week's dinner party. The Rational Dress Society, the headline reads. You'd hidden it quickly, but the ideas inside have been haunting you. Could women really dress differently? Could you someday walk through the world without feeling like your body is in a cage? Agnes follows your gaze and quickly adjusts your skirt, drawing your attention away from the forbidden literature. Best not to dwell on such things, Ma'am, she says quietly. Some battles can't be won in a day. You take as deep a breath as your corset allows and prepare to descend the stairs. One careful step at a time, as befits a proper Victorian lady. The weight of expectations feels heavier than all your clothing combined. Breakfast is a painful affair, not the food itself. Cook has prepared a lovely spread of toast, eggs and kippers, but the actual process of eating while corseted is miserable. Your compressed stomach can only handle small bites, and even those sit uncomfortably. Your husband barely notices your discomfort. He's hidden behind his newspaper, occasionally making comments about politics or business that require no real response from you. This is probably a blessing. At least you don't have to make conversation while struggling to breathe. I'll be at the club until late, he announces, folding his paper. The Hendersons are coming for dinner tomorrow, so make sure you look presentable. The way his eyes flicker to your face makes his meaning clear. The Hendersons are influential, and Mrs. Henderson is known for her flawless complexion and fashionable appearance. You'll need to do better than just a corset tomorrow. After he leaves, you return to your dressing room where Agnes has laid out your beauty regimen. The array of bottles, pots and tools looks more like a chemist's laboratory than cosmetics. Shall we begin with the face treatments, Ma'am? Agnes asks. You nod, settling onto the stool before your vanity mirror. The woman who stares back at you is pale, not the fashionable porcelain pallor, but the sickly pallor of someone who rarely sees the sun. Dark circles rim your eyes from another night of uncomfortable sleep in your corset. Mrs. Henderson uses that new face cream, you muse. The one with... what is it called? Ammonia, ma'am, Agnes says, reaching for a white jar. Said to remove impurities from the skin. She unscrews the lid and the sharp, acrid smell makes your eyes water immediately. Inside is a white paste that supposedly bleaches the skin to the desired marble-like perfection. Are you sure this is safe? You ask, wrinkling your nose. Agnes hesitates. Lady Caroline swears by it, though her lady's maid told me in confidence that it burned her skin something awful the first week. And the alternative is... Agnes gestures to the array of other options, creams containing lead, mercury, or arsenic, all guaranteed to create that coveted deathly pallor that signifies you've never had to work outside in the sun. You know, Agnes says quietly, my grandmother used to make a face cream from beeswax and rose water. Didn't turn you white as a ghost, but it kept her skin nice into old age. You consider this. A natural option sounds appealing, but would it be enough? Society doesn't want nice skin. It wants unnaturally pale, artificially perfect skin, the kind that shows you can afford to poison yourself slowly in the name of beauty. Let's try the ammonia cream, you decide, mentally preparing for the burn, but not too much. Agnes nods and dips her fingers into the jar, then begins applying the cream to your face in light circular motions. The burning sensation is immediate, a chemical fire across your skin. Your eyes water and your nose runs, but you force yourself to remain still. It's working, Ma'am, Agnes says encouragingly. Your skin is already turning whiter. Probably because all the blood is retreating in terror, you mutter, which makes Agnes stifle a laugh. Next comes the powder, a fine white dust that Agnes applies with a large puff. It contains bismuth, a heavy metal that gives that desired matte finish. You try not to think about how it's slowly absorbing into your skin day after day, year after year. Now for your eyes, ma'am? Agnes reaches for a small dropper bottle containing a clear liquid. Is that the belladonna? Yes, ma'am, for brightening the eyes. You've used it before, drops made from deadly nightshade that dilate the pupils dramatically, creating a doe-eyed, luminous look that men find attractive. The side effects include blurred vision, sensitivity to light, and if used too frequently, blindness. But what's a little vision damage in the pursuit of beauty? Just one drop in each eye, you instruct, tilting your head back. Agnes carefully administers the drops. The familiar burning sensation follows, then the strange feeling of your pupils expanding beyond their natural size, letting in too much light. The world becomes slightly fuzzy around the edges. Beautiful, Agnes murmurs, like starlit pools. You blink rapidly, trying to clear your vision. This temporary beauty will make reading impossible for at least 3 hours, and you'll need to avoid bright windows. A small price to pay, you're told. Remember what happened to Lady Pembroke? You ask Agnes as she prepares the rouge pot. They say she went completely blind from belladonna drops. I heard it was her own fault, Agnes replies, repeating the gossip of the servants' quarters, using them 3 times a day instead of once. You wonder what drove Lady Pembroke to such extremes. Was her husband particularly demanding? Did she feel the constant pressure to be more beautiful, more perfect, more doll-like for the male gaze? Or was she simply caught in the same beauty trap as all of you? Competing in an endless game where the rules were written by men and the players were all women. Now for your lips, ma'am. Agnes takes a small brush and dips it into a pot of red salve. This at least is relatively harmless, just beeswax tinted with carmine from crushed beetles. The irony isn't lost on you. The one beauty product that won't slowly poison you is made from insects. Agnes, you say suddenly as she applies the tint to your lips. Do you think our daughters will still be doing all this? 20, 30 years from now? Agnes pauses, brush in hand. Hard to say, ma'am. My mother wore a corset even tighter than yours. Said in her day they'd lace until someone fainted, then loosen it just enough to wake them up. That's horrible. That was fashion, Agnes shrugs. Though I did hear about some ladies starting a society against it all. The rational something or other. Rational Dress Society, you supply, thinking of the pamphlet hidden in your desk drawer. Agnes nods. My cousin works for a lady who's joined it. Says they want women in shorter skirts and looser bodices. Some even wear trousers underneath like men. the idea is both scandalous and thrilling. To move freely, to breathe fully, to exist in your body rather than being packaged in it. What do you think would happen, you ask, genuinely curious, if I just didn't wear a corset one day? Agnes looks genuinely alarmed. Oh, ma'am, you couldn't. Your husband would notice straight away, and if you went out, why, everyone would talk. But what if all women decided at once they couldn't ostracize all of us? I suppose not, ma'am, but who'd be the first? That's the problem, isn't it? Someone has to go first. Someone has to brave the ridicule, the social suicide of defying convention. And despite your private rebellious thoughts, you know it won't be you. Not today, anyway. Now for your hair, ma'am, Agnes says, changing the subject. She picks up the curling tongs that have been heating by the fire. They're red hot, designed to create the tight ringlets currently in fashion. Your scalp still bears small scars from previous burns, an occupational hazard of Victorian hairstyling. Agnes is skilled, but accidents happen, especially when working with tools literally designed to burn. Have you heard about that new permanent waving machine? Agnes asks as she carefully wraps a strand of your hair around the hot metal. They say it can curl your hair for weeks, not just days. The Nestler machine? I read about it. Didn't the inventor burn his wife's hair off twice while perfecting it? That's what I heard, Agnes confirms with a slight smile. Must have been quite devoted to him to let him try a third time. You share a laugh at this, a rare moment of feminine solidarity across class lines. Both of you understand the painful absurdity of what women endure. The smell of singed hair fills the room as Agnes continues her work. It's not burning, just cooking slightly. Another unpleasant aspect of beauty that everyone pretends not to notice. Your friend Elizabeth visited Paris last season and returned with tales of women who coloured their hair with dyes containing lead, mercury and silver nitrate. Some had developed strange symptoms, trembling hands, headaches, even partial paralysis, but their hair was fashionably coloured, so many considered it a reasonable trade. Did you see Mrs. Whitmore at the Johnsons' dinner? Agnes asks as she works. Her new lady's maid used to work for an actress. Did her hair with something special. It did look unusually red, you recall. Very striking. Apparently it's henna mixed with something else. Can't recall the name, but her maid said it's turning Mrs. Whitmore's hair brittle as straw. Coming out in handfuls it is. You wince, not just from the hot curling tongs near your ear. Is there anything we do that doesn't eventually harm us? Agnes considers this seriously. Sleep, perhaps, though my mother always slept in papillotes to curl her hair and woke with awful headaches from the tight wrapping. With your hair finally arranged in an elaborate style that will require you to sleep sitting up to preserve it. Agnes steps back to admire her work. Perfect, ma'am. Now for the finishing touch. From a velvet-lined box, she removes your pearl earrings, heavy pendants that will drag at your earlobes all day, eventually stretching the holes until they tear, as happened to your grandmother. Beauty is pain, after all. I don't think I need the earrings today, you decide. Just visiting mother, after all. Agnes looks surprised but pleased. These small rebellions feel significant, even if they're tiny in the grand scheme of things. As Agnes helps you rise, you catch sight of yourself in the full-length mirror. The transformation is complete. You've gone from a natural human woman to a Victorian ideal. Wasp-waisted, pale-skinned, bright-eyed, with elaborate curls and artificially reddened lips. You look beautiful by the standards of your time. You also look like you're slowly killing yourself, which, in a way, you are. The door opens and your lady's maid from the neighbouring estate enters, looking distraught. "Begging your pardon, ma'am, but could Agnes come quick? It's Lady Russell. She's collapsed again." Agnes looks to you for permission, which you quickly grant. "What happened?" you ask the maid. "Her corset, ma'am. Tightened it more than usual for the garden party. Couldn't breathe proper. And when she tried to sit for tea, she just folded. Doctor's been called, but the master is in a state." You exchange a look with Agnes. This happens more often than anyone acknowledges. Women fainting from oxygen deprivation, their compressed organs simply giving up. Usually they're loosened, revived, and sent right back to the same practices that caused the problem. "Tell Lady Russell I'll call tomorrow," you tell the maid. "And Agnes, perhaps bring her that pamphlet from my desk." Agnes's eyes widen slightly, but she nods. A small act of rebellion passing forbidden literature, but maybe, just maybe, if enough women start questioning these practices. After Agnes leaves, you stand alone in your dressing room, surrounded by bottles of poisons disguised as beauty aids. Your skin tingles from the ammonia cream. Your eyes struggle to focus from the belladonna. Your ribs ache from the corset. Your scalp stings from the hot tongs. All of this suffering for beauty, all of this danger for social acceptance. You think of your mother enduring these same rituals for 30 years. You think of Lady Russell, unconscious from a too-tight corset. You think of the pamphlet now making its way to another potential convert to rational dress. Change comes slowly, then all at once. Perhaps you're witnessing the slow part, the quiet questioning, the private rebellions, the whispered conversations between women about whether there might be another way to exist in the world. You take a final look in the mirror. Today, you'll play by society's rules. You'll visit your mother corseted, painted and proper, but you've refused the arsenic wafers. You've skipped the heavy earrings. You've passed along dangerous literature. Small acts of rebellion, but they have to start somewhere. With careful, measured steps, the only kind possible in your restrictive clothing, you make your way downstairs to begin your day, wondering if your daughter or granddaughter might someday walk freely, breathe deeply, and exist in her body as nature intended. It seems an impossible dream, but then again, all change begins as an impossible dream. The carriage ride to your mother's home is uncomfortable. Each bump in the road jars your compressed organs, sending small shocks of pain through your abdomen. You try to sit perfectly straight, as slouching in a corset creates its own special kind of torture, the rigid boning digging into your flesh like knives. Your mother's home appears around the corner, a respectable townhouse with lace curtains visible through gleaming windows, the perfect Victorian home designed to showcase the perfect Victorian wife who maintains it. Your mother greets you in the parlour, her own waist impossibly tiny for a woman in her 50s. You wonder how many decades her organs have been compressed, reshaped, rearranged within her body. Has she ever taken a full breath? You can't remember ever seeing it. "Darling," she says, kissing your cheek, "you look acceptable, though your complexion could use some help. Have you tried those arsenic wafers I sent over?" "Not yet, mother," you reply. "I've been feeling a bit unwell." She frowns. All the more reason to use them. Nothing enhances a woman's beauty like a touch of illness. Men adore the delicate look. She leans closer. Mrs. Carrington has been taking them for months and received 3 marriage proposals for her daughters already this season. You don't mention that Mrs. Carrington's youngest daughter confided in you that she's been coughing blood recently. Beauty has its price, and in Victorian England that price is often paid in health. "I've come for your advice, actually," you say, changing the subject. "The Hendersons are coming to dinner tomorrow, and you know how particular they are." Your mother brightens immediately. If there's one thing she excels at, it's managing a proper Victorian household. You must impress them, she says firmly. A woman is judged by her home as much as her appearance. It reflects your capabilities as a wife. And so begins a lengthy lecture on household management, the backbone of a Victorian woman's existence. While men run the outside world, women are expected to create perfect domestic sanctuaries. This is no small task, even with servants to do the physical labour. Prepare something impressive, but not ostentatious, your mother advises. You don't want to appear as if you're trying too hard. Perhaps the duck with cherry sauce, followed by a Charlotte Russe. You nod, mentally adding these items to your list. Maintaining the perfect balance is exhausting, impressive enough to show your husband's prosperity, but not so lavish that you appear nouveau riche or wasteful. And make sure the parlour is immaculate, she continues. Mrs. Henderson has been known to run her finger along mantelpieces when she thinks no one is looking. You suppress a sigh. I'll speak to the housekeeper. Do more than speak, darling. Inspect everything yourself. A proper mistress knows every inch of her domain. This is the expectation, that even with a full staff of servants, you will personally oversee every detail. Your role is not to do the work, but to ensure it's done perfectly. An impossible standard that keeps you constantly vigilant, constantly anxious. Remember, your mother says, the angel of the house must create a sanctuary for her husband away from the harshness of the business world. The angel of the house, that Victorian ideal of womanhood that's been drilled into you since childhood. The perfect wife who maintains a perfect home, all while appearing effortlessly beautiful, unfailingly pleasant, and eternally selfless. A domestic goddess who exists only to make others comfortable while ignoring her own discomfort. And how is Henry? Your mother asks, referring to your husband. Working hard, I assume. Very hard, you reply automatically. He's at his club this evening. Business matters. Your mother nods approvingly. As it should be, a man needs his freedom, and a wise wife never questions his absences. You think of Henry's late nights, the perfume that sometimes clings to his clothes, the lipstick stain you once found on his handkerchief. Your mother's generation would say it's simply a man's nature, something to be ignored in exchange for financial security and social standing. Now, about the dinner service, your mother continues, launching into detailed instructions about silver placement and napkin folding. By the time you leave your mother's home, your head is spinning with instructions and reminders. The weight of expectations feels even heavier than your corset and layers of clothing. Back at your own house, you find the housekeeper, Mrs. Peters, waiting for you with a worried expression. Begging your pardon, ma'am, but we've had an issue with the kitchen range. Cook says it's smoking something terrible. And so begins the real work of being the Victorian angel of the house. For the next several hours, you move from crisis to crisis. The kitchen range needs cleaning, but the chimney sweep can't come until Thursday. You'll need to find an emergency replacement before the Hendersons arrive. The parlour curtains have a small stain that everyone missed. They'll need to be taken down and cleaned immediately. The fishmonger delivered inferior quality salmon. You'll have to send someone to the market first thing tomorrow for replacements. One of the housemaids is showing signs of consumption. Do you dismiss her immediately to protect the household, or allow her to stay until she finds new employment? Each decision falls to you, not the physical labour, you have servants for that, but the mental load of managing this domestic machine, and all while looking perfectly composed, never letting anyone see you sweat beneath your layers of proper clothing. The table linens, ma'am, Mrs. Peters says, bringing you a selection. Which would you prefer for tomorrow's dinner? You examine each option carefully. This seemingly small decision could impact how the Hendersons perceive your entire household. Too ornate suggests trying to impress. Too simple implies carelessness. This one, you decide, selecting a cream damask with subtle embroidery. And the silver candlesticks, I think, but not the new ones. We don't want to appear boastful. Mrs. Peters nods approvingly. She understands the complex social calculations as well as you do. And shall I have the parlour fire lit an hour before they arrive? Mrs. Henderson is known to feel the cold. Yes, and make sure the drawing room is slightly warmer than the dining room. We want them comfortable throughout the evening. These minutiae, fire temperatures, linen choices, silver selections, consume your day. Your corseted body moves from room to room, inspecting, directing, ensuring that every detail is perfect. This is your domain, your purpose, your prison. You pause in the drawing room, suddenly light-headed. The combination of restricted breathing and constant movement is taking its toll. Spots dance before your eyes, and you reach for a chair. "Ma'am?" Mrs. Peters appears in the doorway, concerned. "Are you unwell?" "Just a moment of weakness," you assure her, though your vision is still blurry. "Perhaps I'll rest before dinner." But there's no time for rest. The household accounts need reviewing, tomorrow's menu must be finalised, and you need to write several social correspondence letters before evening. This is the hidden labour of Victorian womanhood, the constant mental and emotional work behind the facade of effortless grace. Men may mock women's leisure, but they don't see the complex machinery you maintain. In your private study, you review the household accounts with meticulous care. Every penny must be accounted for, every expenditure justified. Your husband provides an allowance for household expenses, and you're expected to work miracles with it. The butcher has raised his prices again. The coal delivery was short by nearly a bucket. One of the kitchen maids broke a teacup from the good service. Each entry requires a decision. A solution. You're essentially running a small business, but without the recognition or authority that would come with a formal business role. Instead, your success is measured by invisibility, the smooth running of a household where problems are solved before anyone notices them. "Ma'am, your lady's maid has returned from Lady Russell's. I delivered that pamphlet as you asked. And how is Lady Russell?" "Recovered, ma'am, but shaken. The doctor advised her to loosen her stays, but her husband," Agnes pauses, then finishes diplomatically, "prefers her current silhouette. You understand the unspoken reality. Lady Russell will continue to risk her health because her husband values her appearance over her well-being. It's a bargain most of you have made." "She was most interested in the pamphlet," Agnes adds quietly. "Asked if I might bring more information next time I visit." A small victory, another potential ally in the quiet rebellion. You nod, pleased, then return to your accounts. By the time evening arrives, you've solved a dozen household crises, reviewed the entire menu for tomorrow's dinner, written 5 social letters, organised the flower arrangements, and inspected every room the Hendersons might possibly enter. All this while restricted by your corset, dress, and social expectations of proper feminine behaviour. You haven't raised your voice, shown frustration, or admitted to any physical discomfort. The perfect angel of the house, your husband returns home as you're taking a rare moment of rest in the drawing room. "The house looks acceptable," he comments, which from him is high praise. "I trust everything is prepared for tomorrow?" "Yes, of course," you reply, not mentioning the hours of work, the dozen decisions, the physical toll. "Good. The Hendersons are important connections. Mr. Henderson could be very useful to my business ventures. And there it is, the real purpose of your domestic labour. Not your comfort, not even really his, but the advancement of his social and business standing. Your home is a stage set for his ambitions, and you are both the stage manager and a principal actor. Oh, "And Margaret," he adds casually, "wear the blue silk tomorrow. It gives you a more youthful appearance." You nod, though the blue silk requires an even tighter corset. You'll need to start lacing earlier to acclimate your body to the additional restriction. Perhaps you'll skip breakfast entirely. It's impossible to eat in that particular corset anyway. "I thought I might invite Lady Russell to tea next week," you say carefully. "She's been unwell." Your husband frowns. "I've heard concerning things about the Russells. He mentioned that she's been reading some rather inappropriate materials, feminist nonsense about rational dress or some such." Your heart beats faster. Has he somehow discovered your own interest in the movement? You keep your expression neutral. "How shocking," you murmur. "I had no idea." Best to limit your association with her, I think. We don't need those sorts of radical ideas in our household. You nod again, the perfect obedient wife, while internally calculating how you might still communicate with Lady Russell without your husband's knowledge. The ladies' charitable committee, perhaps? He never pays attention to those womanly activities. "I believe I'll retire early," you say. "Tomorrow will be quite demanding." He waves a dismissive hand already buried in his newspaper. Your domestic labours are invisible to him, both the physical toll and the mental load. He sees only the results: a well-managed home, an attractively presented wife, a social reputation that benefits his business interests. Agnes helps you prepare for bed, a process almost as involved as dressing. Each hairpin must be carefully removed to preserve tomorrow's hairstyle. Your face must be cleaned of powders and paints. Your corset finally can be loosened. The relief is immediate and almost painful in itself. Blood rushing back to compressed areas, organs shifting tentatively back toward their natural positions. You take a deep breath, your first full inhalation since morning. "Will that be all, ma'am?" Agnes asks, folding your discarded clothing. "Yes, thank you, Agnes." You pause, then add, "Could you perhaps find more of those pamphlets? Lady Russell isn't the only one who might be interested." Agnes smiles slightly. "I believe I could, ma'am. My cousin knows a lady who attends their meetings." Another small conspiracy, another tiny rebellion. Not enough to change your life today, but perhaps enough to plant seeds for tomorrow. Alone in your bed, you rub the raw marks on your ribs where the corset has dug into your flesh all day. Tomorrow you'll do it all again. The physical restrictions, the household management, the performance of perfect Victorian womanhood. But tonight, in these precious hours of relative freedom, you imagine a different world. One where women can breathe freely, move comfortably, and exist as full human beings rather than decorative angels of the house. It seems impossible, but then all change begins as an impossible dream. Morning arrives too soon. Your body aches from yesterday's constriction, but there's no time for recovery. Today brings the Henderson dinner, a social obligation that could advance your husband's business interests or damage them, depending on your performance as hostess. Agnes arrives with a cup of weak tea. All your compressed stomach can handle this early. "We'll need to start earlier with the corset today, ma'am," she reminds you. "The blue silk requires a smaller waist." You nod, dreading what's to come. The blue silk dress was made when you were younger, before 2 pregnancies had changed your body. Achieving the necessary silhouette will require extreme measures. "There's something else, ma'am," Agnes says hesitantly. "I've heard the Henderson ladies have adopted some new fashion from Paris, something called a health corset." Health corset? You're immediately interested. What makes it healthier? It's cut differently, ma'am. Supports from the shoulders rather than just squeezing the waist. Ladies say they can breathe better in it. A corset that allows breathing. What a revolutionary concept. "Do you think we could find one before tonight?" Agnes shakes her head regretfully. "Not in time, ma'am, but I've made some inquiries for the future." This small act of initiative from your lady's maid touches you. Agnes is becoming an ally in your quiet rebellion against the more dangerous aspects of fashion. Thank you, Agnes. Now let's get this torture device on, shall we? Today's corseting is worse than usual. Agnes has to brace her foot against your dressing table for leverage as she pulls the laces. You grip the bedpost so hard your knuckles turn white. "I can't," you gasp at one point, spots dancing before your eyes. "It's too tight." "Just a bit more, ma'am," Agnes encourages. "We're almost there." The final pull brings tears to your eyes. Your waist is now impossibly small, your breathing reduced to shallow pants. You feel lightheaded already, and the day has barely begun. 19 inches, Agnes announces with professional satisfaction. Smaller than last time you wore the blue silk. You try to feel proud of this achievement, as society expects. Instead, you feel dizzy and slightly nauseated. The pain will subside, Agnes assures you, though both of you know this isn't entirely true. The pain merely evolves from sharp and immediate to dull and chronic. Your body screaming its protest in whatever way it can. Once dressed, you force yourself to eat a few bites of toast, though there's hardly room in your compressed stomach. You'll need some sustenance to get through the day of preparations ahead. In the drawing room, you find your two daughters with their governess. Eleanor, 14, is already wearing a training corset, less restrictive than an adult's, but designed to gradually mould her growing body into the desired shape. Emma, just 7, still enjoys the freedom of childhood clothing, though in a few short years she too will begin the process of physical restriction. "Mother, you look beautiful," Eleanor says dutifully, having already learned the expected compliments. "Thank you, dear." You study your older daughter, noticing how she sits perfectly straight, never leaning back against the chair. Her training corset doesn't allow it. Already she's learning that comfort must be sacrificed for appearance. Later that morning, you visit the milliner to collect your new hat for church on Sunday. The fashionable creation sits like a small garden on your head, complete with silk flowers, stuffed birds, and decorative feathers. "The latest style from Paris," the milliner assures you, adjusting the angle. "The birds are particularly fine, genuine hummingbirds from South America." You study your reflection, admiring the craftsmanship while trying to ignore what it represents. Entire species of birds are being hunted to near extinction for ladies' hats. Some estimates suggest that 50 million birds are killed annually for the millinery trade. It's an environmental catastrophe disguised as fashion. "And these?" You point to the foot-long hat pins needed to secure this creation to your hair. "Stainless steel with pearl tops," the milliner says proudly, "strong enough to hold the hat in any weather." You don't mention the news story you read recently. A woman whose hatpin accidentally stabbed a man on a crowded omnibus, causing a serious injury. Some cities have begun passing ordinances limiting hatpin length or requiring protective tips, but fashion resists these safety measures. "And will you be wanting the matching parasol, ma'am?" the milliner asks hopefully. You decline. One dangerous fashion accessory is enough for today. Back home, preparations for the Henderson dinner are in full swing. The house smells of beeswax polish and cooking, and servants hurry about with last-minute tasks. You supervise it all while fighting the discomfort of your too-tight corset, which seems to grow worse as the day progresses. By mid-afternoon, you retreat to your bedroom for a brief rest, a necessary concession to your physical state. Lying down in a tightly laced corset is its own special form of torture, so you recline carefully on a chaise lounge, propped up by pillows. Agnes enters with a concerned expression. "The mistress next door sent this over, ma'am. Thought you might want to see it." She hands you a newspaper clipping about a young woman who died after a dancing party. The coroner's report cited tight lacing as a contributing factor. Her waist had been compressed to 17 inches, causing her organs to be dangerously displaced. During the exertion of dancing, she collapsed and could not be revived. 17 inches, you murmur, thinking of the women you know who achieve even smaller measurements. And still women continue the practice. It's expected, isn't it? Agnes says simply. No one wants to be the first to stop. The door opens again, and your younger daughter Emma runs in, then stops abruptly at the sight of you in your formal dress. Mama, why do you look so different? She asks with childish directness. You smile. It's a special dress for important guests. But your middle looks wrong. Emma frowns. Are you sick? Out of the mouths of babes. You exchange glances with Agnes. How do you explain to a child that yes, you are making yourself sick, compressing your organs, restricting your breathing, risking your health, all for the sake of a silhouette deemed attractive by society? It's just fashion, darling, you say finally. When you're older, you'll understand. But you hope she won't understand. You hope that by the time Emma is grown, the fashions will have changed, that she'll never know the pain of tight lacing or the danger of lead-based face powder. Emma seems unconvinced, but accepts your answer for now. After she leaves, Agnes helps you to your feet. Time to finish dressing, ma'am. The Hendersons will arrive in 2 hours. The final preparations are torturous. Your hair must be styled elaborately, requiring you to sit perfectly still while Agnes works with hot curling tongs. Each movement sends pain through your compressed torso. Your face must be painted to achieve the fashionable pallor. Belladonna drops sting your eyes but create the desired dilated pupils. By the time you're fully dressed, you can barely breathe. The weight of your clothing, corset, petticoats, bustle, dress, comes to nearly 15 pounds, all hanging from your constricted waist. Moving requires careful calculation. Sitting must be done precisely, perching rather than truly resting. You look perfect, ma'am, Agnes assures you, standing back to admire her work. Perfect, but at what cost? Your ribs throb where the corset has shifted them. Your lungs can only partially inflate. Your internal organs are compressed into unnatural positions. Even your skin burns from the chemicals meant to whiten it. The first warning sign comes as you descend the stairs to greet your husband. A wave of dizziness hits, causing you to grip the banister. Your vision tunnels briefly, the edges going dark. Are you well? Your husband. Gold rush, railroads, and a sense of adventure weren't what really built the Wild West. The contribution of these factors was only limited to drawing people to the frontier. The Wild West didn't become civilized until women arrived, and no, we're not talking about the wives and mothers of settlers. We're talking about the madams, the ladies of the lines, and the soiled doves who used the world's oldest profession to transform lawless camps into actual communities. Here's what life was really like for a woman working in a Wild West brothel. So, yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Last week, someone from Canada said they listened during lunch breaks. Not judging, just wasn't expecting that. All right, Wild West brothels tonight. But wait, are you comfortable? No, really. Check. Pillows, blankets, the whole deal. Where we're going, you'll want to be settled. Your eyes flutter open to darkness. For a moment, panic grips you. Where are you? The thin mattress beneath you isn't your bed. The smell is wrong. Tobacco, whiskey, cheap perfume, and something else. Something human. Then it all comes rushing back. You're in Silver Creek, 1876, in a tiny room above a saloon that now doubles as your workplace and home. The space is hardly bigger than a closet. They call these cribs. Just enough room for a narrow bed with a worn-out straw mattress, a small washstand with a chipped porcelain basin, and a three-legged stool that wobbles when you sit on it. Your few possessions are stuffed into a trunk at the foot of the bed. Unlike your cozy bed back home, this mattress crinkles when you move. It's covered in oilcloth to make it easier to clean between clients. Christ, it's cold. The thin blanket does nothing against the mountain chill that seeps through the gaps in the wooden walls. The cold is different here in the Rockies. It cuts right through to your bones. Nothing like back east. You can hear someone coughing in the next room. These walls are so thin you can practically hear people thinking. 3 days you've been here, and already you know that Molly in the next room talks in her sleep, and the girl 2 doors down cries silently every night. Rise and shine, ladies' coffee's hot and the day's wasting. That's Sadie, the madam. Her voice carries through the building like a trumpet. You can picture her already, all 5 feet of her wrapped in a silk robe, her greying hair still in papers, marching down the hall to make sure her girls are up and moving. You glance out the small window. It's not even dawn yet, just a hint of grey on the horizon, but the mines start their shifts early and there's money to be made from men coming off the night shift. Not that you're exactly rolling in cash. 3 days in and you've made just enough to cover your room and board with a few dollars to spare. Martha, you awake in there? Got a gentleman asking for you special like? Sadie's voice is right outside your door now. You sit up, rubbing sleep from your eyes. I'm up. Good girl. Wash up and come down, and for God's sake, put some rouge on. You look like death warmed over. You can hear her shuffling away, muttering something about green girls and breaking them in right. You're not actually Martha. Your real name is Eleanor Blackwood, but Sadie said Eleanor sounded too proper for this line of work, and customers like simpler names. So Martha, you became the moment you walked through her door, desperate and broke after your husband gambled away everything and then vanished in the night. In your head, you're still screaming, how did I end up here? This is how I die, in a crib, in a mining town. But outwardly, you're calm. You've always been good at keeping your face blank, a skill that's serving you well now. The wash basin water is ice cold, making you gasp as you splash it on your face. No time to heat it up. You've learned that much already. In this business, time is literally money, and hot water is a luxury reserved for paying customers. You pull a brush through your hair and pinch your cheeks hard to bring some colour. The rouge is in a small tin on the washstand, bright red and waxy. You dab some on your lips and cheeks, wincing at how garish it looks in the small cracked mirror. Nothing like the subtle beauty you once prided yourself on. Martha, he ain't gonna wait all day. Sadie's voice again, impatient now. You throw on your work dress, a red satin thing with too much lace and a neckline that makes you flush every time you catch your reflection. 3 days ago, you would have died before wearing something like this. Amazing how quickly necessity changes your standards. Your dress back home wouldn't last a day here. It's funny. I spent so much on those proper dresses, and they were basically just wall decoration compared to what I need now. The floorboards creak as you make your way down the narrow stairs. The saloon below is never completely quiet, but at this hour it's subdued. Just a couple of miners nursing drinks at the bar, and the piano player slumped over his keys, snoring softly. And there's your gentleman caller, a big bearded man in dirty work clothes, his face weathered by sun and wind. He's nervously twisting his hat in his hands, and when he sees you, his face breaks into a smile that reveals several missing teeth. This here's Joe, Sadie says, patting his shoulder. He's a good one, pays fair and don't cause trouble. Treat him nice, Martha. Joe nods at you, still twisting his hat. Ma'am, he says, surprisingly soft-spoken for such a big man. Sadie gives you a little push toward the stairs. Room 3's open, 20 minutes, not a minute more. I'll be timing. And just like that, your workday has begun before the sun has even cleared the mountains. Not quite what you pictured when you headed west after reading those pamphlets about opportunity and adventure. As you lead Joe up the stairs, you can't help but think about the journey that brought you here. 6 months ago, you were a respectable shopkeeper's wife in Boston. Then Thomas lost the shop in a card game, took what little money you had left, and disappeared. The shame of it drove you west, where no one would know your story. You thought you'd find work as a seamstress or maybe a cook, but in a town with 20 men for every woman, the best paying job was obvious, and after 3 days of hunger, watching your last coins disappear, you found yourself knocking on Sadie's door. "You ever done this kind of work before, honey?" she'd asked, eyeing you up and down. "No, ma'am," you'd admitted. "Didn't think so." You got that look, like you still believe in fairy tales. She'd sighed then. "Well, you're pretty enough, and men like a fresh face. You can stay, but you follow my rules. No drinking on the job, no stealing from customers, no getting attached. They're not here to save you, they're here to buy what you're selling. Understand?" You'd nodded, not trusting yourself to speak. "Good. Now, first things first, we need to get you proper clothes and teach you how to paint your face. Men don't pay for plain." That first night had been the hardest. You'd cried afterward, silently in your little crib room. But by the second night, you were too tired to cry, and now, on your 4th day, you're already developing the 1,000-yard stare that all the other girls have, looking through the men rather than at them. After Joe leaves, looking considerably happier than when he arrived, you count your earnings. $2, not bad for 20 minutes of uncomfortable work. At this rate, if you're careful with your money, you might be able to save enough to get out of here in a few months. Maybe head to California or up to Oregon, somewhere with more women where you could blend in and start over. But for now, you're here, and Sadie's calling for you again. "Martha got another one for you, and bring down them sheets. Maggie's doing laundry today." You strip the bed and bundle up the sheets. The day has properly begun now, the sun peeking over the mountains, casting long shadows across the muddy main street. From your window you can see the town coming to life. Miners heading to or from their shifts, a wagon delivering goods to the general store, the blacksmith already at his forge. Silver Creek is barely a town, just one main street with a handful of businesses: the saloon, brothel, the general store, a barbershop that doubles as a dentist's office, the blacksmith, and a small hotel for travellers. There's a church being built at the edge of town, but it's been half finished for months. Priorities in a mining town are clear: pleasure before piety. You head downstairs with your bundle of sheets. The saloon is busier now, and you feel eyes following you as you cross to the back door where Maggie is already at work with the washing. "Morning, Martha," she says, not looking up from her scrubbing. "Just drop 'em in the pile there." Maggie's been here longest of all the girls, almost 40, ancient in this profession. Too old for the cribs now, she handles the cleaning, cooking, and occasionally sings when the piano player is sober enough to accompany her. She knows everything about everyone in town, and is your best source of information so far. "How'd you sleep, honey?" she asks, wringing out a sheet with surprisingly strong hands. "Not great," you admit. "It's so noisy here." She laughs at that. "Honey, you think it's noisy now? Wait till payday on Friday. This place will be jumping till dawn. You'll make good money, though. Any advice for, getting through it?" Maggie finally looks up at you, her face a map of fine lines and hard living. But her eyes are kind. "Find somewhere else in your head to go. That's what I always did. And save every penny you can. This ain't a job you can do forever." You nod, grateful for her honesty if not her optimism. "And watch out for the Barlow brothers," she adds, turning back to her washing. "They come in here acting sweet, but they get mean when they drink. Sadie won't let 'em in anymore, but they still try." Thanks for the warning. Us girls gotta look out for each other. Ain't nobody else gonna do it. That's becoming clear. In just a few days, you've seen how the women here rely on each other, sharing remedies for various ailments, warning about dangerous customers, lending clothes and cosmetics, covering for each other when someone needs a break. It's a strange sisterhood, born of necessity and shared experience. The saloon door bangs open, and a man in a suit walks in, clearly not a miner or cowboy. He has a badge pinned to his vest, the sheriff. "Morning, Sheriff Parker," Sadie calls from behind the bar, her voice sweet as honey. "Coffee?" "Not today, Sadie," he says, looking around the room with a disapproving frown. "Just making my rounds. Remind your girls to come in for their health checks tomorrow. Doc Wilson's orders." "Already on my calendar," Sadie assures him. "My girls are clean as whistles. You know that." The sheriff's eyes land on you, and you feel yourself shrink under his gaze. "New girl?" he asks Sadie, though he's still looking at you. "This is Martha, just arrived from back east, and yes, she'll be at the docks tomorrow with the rest." He tips his hat to you, but there's no warmth in the gesture. "Ma'am?" You nod back, not sure what to say. The whole exchange feels strange, like you're a piece of livestock being inspected. After he leaves, you turn to Maggie. "What was that about? Health checks?" "Sheriff makes us all see the doctor once a month," she explains, still scrubbing, checking for diseases and such. Town law. They fine Sadie if any of us miss it. And if someone has something, then they can't work till they're cleared. That's why Sadie's strict about men using rubbers. She nods toward a drawer behind the bar. Keeps them right there. French letters, she calls them. Costs the men extra, but it's that or no business. You feel a flush of relief at this news. You'd been worried about diseases. You'd heard stories about what happened to women in this profession. At least Sadie runs a careful establishment. The day progresses in a blur of men coming and going. Some are kind, some are rough, all are lonely in their way. You stop counting after the fifth, focusing instead on the money accumulating in the small pouch Sadie gave you. "Keep it close," she'd warned. "Men will steal it if they can. I take a 50% cut. That's for room and board and protection. The rest is yours." Protection. That became clear when a drunk cowboy got too rough with one of the girls and Sadie appeared with a shotgun, ending the situation instantly. The man left without argument and Sadie helped the girl, Daisy, clean up her split lip. "No man touches my girls without permission," she'd said firmly. "That's the rule." By midday, you're exhausted but have earned more money than you would in a week of honest work back east. That's the devil's bargain of this life. Good money for work that costs pieces of your soul. You're sitting at the bar, nursing a cup of coffee laced with whiskey. Sadie's recommendation for getting through the day when the door opens again. This time it's a woman who enters, dressed in a plain, practical dress, her hair pulled back severely, a Bible clutched in her hands. The saloon goes quiet. Everyone knows what's coming. "Mrs. Holcomb," Sadie says, her voice noticeably cooler. "What brings you to our establishment? Looking for your husband, perhaps?" Several of the men chuckle at this, but Mrs. Holcomb isn't amused. She draws herself up, looking down her nose at Sadie despite being several inches shorter. "I've come to speak to these poor, lost women," she announces, "to offer them a path to redemption before it's too late." Sadie sighs dramatically. "We've been through this, Evelyn. My girls aren't interested in your redemption. They're working women making an honest living." "Honest?" Mrs. Holcomb nearly chokes on the word. "There is nothing honest about selling one's virtue for money." You find yourself speaking before you can stop yourself. "And what would you have us do instead, ma'am? Work in your husband's mine for pennies a day until our lungs give out? Or marry one of these fine gentlemen who just as soon beat us as look at us?" The room goes even quieter. Mrs. Holcomb turns her stern gaze on you. "You're new," she observes, "not yet completely corrupted. Come with me, child. The Ladies' Aid Society can find you respectable work." You almost laugh. "Doing what? Washing clothes for half what I make here? No thank you, ma'am." Her lips tighten to a thin line. Pride comes before a fall, young woman. When you're ready to save your immortal soul, you know where to find me. And with that, she turns and marches out, her back rigid with disapproval. Sadie comes over and puts a hand on your shoulder. "Good for you, standing up to old Battle-Axe Holcomb, but watch yourself. Her husband owns half the town, including the bank. Don't make enemies you can't afford." You nod, suddenly aware that you may have spoken too freely. In a town this small, with everyone's fortunes tied to the mines and the men who own them, politics is a dangerous game. As the day wears on, you learn more about the complex social web of Silver Creek. The brothel, while officially scorned by respectable society, is central to the town's economy and social life. Men come not just for the obvious services, but for company, conversation, and a taste of civilization in the rough frontier. You watch Sadie navigate this complicated position with impressive skill, keeping the peace with the sheriff, managing difficult customers, protecting her girls while still running a profitable business. She's harsh at times, but fair, and in a world where women have few options and fewer rights, she's carved out a kingdom of sorts. By late afternoon, you've earned enough to take a break. Your body aches and your painted smile feels like it might crack your face. You retreat to your tiny room, washing up with water you heated on the stove downstairs. There's a small crack in the wall between your room and Molly's. Through it, you can hear her crying softly. You tap gently on the wall. "Molly, you all right?" The crying stops abruptly. "I'm fine," comes her muffled reply. "Just thinking about home." You understand. Every woman here has a story, a before life that led them to this place. Some are running from something, others running towards something. All are surviving the best way they know how. "Where's home?" you ask, settling on your bed, grateful to take weight off your feet. "Kansas," she says after a pause. "Farm country. Drought took our crops 3 years running. Pa couldn't pay the bank." Another pause. "You?" "Boston," you say. "Husband gambled away everything, then left." She makes a sound that might be a laugh. "Men. They make the messes. We clean 'em up." "That we do," you agree, lying back on your thin mattress. Outside, the sun is starting to lower behind the mountains. Soon, the night shift will begin. Busier, rowdier, more profitable, but also more dangerous. You should sleep while you can, but your mind is too full. You think about Mrs. Holcomb and her judgment, about Sheriff Parker and his calculating gaze, about Joe with his gentle voice and rough hands, about how quickly your life has changed and how uncertain your future remains. In just one day in Silver Creek, you've made more money than you did in a week of honest work back east. But at what cost? And how long can you do this before it breaks something essential inside you? These questions follow you as you drift into an uneasy sleep, the sounds of the saloon beginning to swell below as night falls on the Wild West, a place where fortune and ruin walk hand in hand, and where women like you carve out survival one client at a time. Your last thought before sleep claims you is that your fancy feather bed back in Boston never felt as necessary as this thin straw mattress does now. The difference between comfort and survival as stark as the line between your old life and the new. The sound of breaking glass jolts you awake. Shouting follows, a man's voice, then Sadie's cutting through like a knife. "You break it, you buy it, Mr. Rogers, that's imported crystal, and I'll be adding it to your tab." You blink at the grey light filtering through your window. Morning already. It feels like you just closed your eyes. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache, and your mouth tastes like you've been chewing on old pennies. The bed in your crib is still a shock every morning, narrow as a coffin, the mattress lumpy with straw poking through in spots, nothing like the featherbed you shared with Thomas back in Boston, though honestly, right now it feels like the most comfortable place in the world. Just 5 more minutes. A sharp knock on your door shatters that dream. Rise and shine, Martha breakfast in 10 minutes and Sadie wants to talk to all the girls. It's Maggie's voice, already moving down the hall to wake the others. You groan and push yourself upright. The tiny room spins for a moment. Too much whiskey in your coffee yesterday. Rookie mistake. You've got to learn to pace yourself or you'll end up like Lila, who drinks so much she can barely stand by evening. The floorboards are ice cold under your bare feet. Mid-October in the mountains is no joke. Winter's already breathing down your neck. You splash water on your face from the basin, wincing at the cold, and pull on your day dress, a simple brown cotton thing that's seen better days. No need for the fancy stuff until the evening crowd arrives. Downstairs, the saloon is in that strange, bleary state between the last stragglers of the night and the first customers of the day. A man sleeps with his head on one of the tables, snoring softly. The bartender, Jim, is sweeping up broken glass while Sadie tallies numbers in her ledger at the bar. "Morning, sunshine," Sadie says without looking up. "Sleep well?" "Like the dead," you mumble, making your way to the coffee pot on the stove. The rich smell is the only good thing about this hour. Sadie snorts. "You'll get used to the hours, or you won't last." She closes her ledger with a snap. Coffee's fresh. Maggie's making flapjacks in the kitchen. Eat up. Busy day ahead. The kitchen is a warm, steamy sanctuary at the back of the building. Maggie stands at the stove, expertly flipping flapjacks while chatting with 3 other girls already seated at the large wooden table. This is the heart of the house, where the women gather without men, where they can drop the act for a little while. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," says a tall blonde as you enter. "Rough night, new girl?" "Leave her be, Charlotte," Maggie says, sliding a plate of flapjacks onto the table. "We were all green once." Charlotte shrugs, but there's no real malice in her eyes. "Just saying she looks like she got run over by the stagecoach." You pour yourself coffee from the pot on the stove and join them at the table. "Thanks for the compliment. Exactly the boost I needed this morning." That gets a laugh from the other girls. The redhead next to Charlotte introduces herself as Daisy, and the quiet brunette is Pearl. You've seen them around but haven't really talked yet. "Don't mind Charlotte," Daisy says, passing you the molasses. "She's just sore because Judge Wilson's wife caught him leaving here yesterday." Charlotte rolls her eyes. "That man swore he'd leave her. Been promising for a year now." "And you believed him?" Pearl speaks for the first time, her voice surprisingly deep. "Men will say anything between the sheets." "Ain't that the truth?" Maggie agrees, sitting down with her own plate. "First rule of this business, honey, don't believe a word they say, especially the sweet ones." You nod, pouring molasses over your flapjacks. "The food here is surprisingly good. Maggie used to cook for a logging camp before she came to Silver Creek, and she keeps everyone well fed." "So, where'd you come from, Martha?" Daisy asks through a mouthful. "Boston," you say after a moment's hesitation. "No point lying to these women. They can spot a fake story a mile away." "Fancy," Charlotte says. "What brought you all the way out here? Man trouble, I'm guessing." "Husband gambled away everything, then disappeared." The words come easier now, like you're talking about someone else's life. The women nod. They've heard this story before, or ones like it. Mine drank himself to death, Pearl offers quietly. Left me with 3 kids and a mountain of debt. Where are your children now, you ask, before you can stop yourself. Pearl's face clouds. With my sister in Denver. I send money when I can. She looks down at her plate. They think I'm a seamstress. An uncomfortable silence falls. You've touched on something painful, clearly, but before you can apologise, Sadie sweeps into the kitchen. Ladies, listen up. We've got a big day ahead. The mining company's paying out wages, which means the boys will be flush. I want this place spotless, and I want you all looking your best. She eyes each of you critically. Martha, you're with me after breakfast. Need to teach you a few things. After the last bite of flapjack, you follow Sadie upstairs to her private quarters at the end of the hall. Unlike the cramped cribs where you all sleep, her room is spacious and well furnished. A large 4-poster bed with actual sheets, a dressing table with a proper mirror, a small sitting area with 2 upholstered chairs, and a bookshelf filled with ledgers and a few novels. Sit, she orders, pointing to one of the chairs while she rummages in a cabinet. She returns with a wooden box which she sets on the small table between the chairs. First things first, she says, opening the box to reveal an array of small bottles, tins and packets. Protection. This business will kill you quick if you're not careful. She holds up a small rubber item. French letter. Make sure every man wears one. No exceptions, no matter what they offer to pay. Some will try to take it off when you're not looking, so check and don't let them turn you around so you can't see what they're doing. Next comes a tin of powder. Douche powder. Use it after every customer, no matter what. Mix with warm water. There's always some on the stove downstairs. A small brown bottle. Laudanum. For when the monthly pains come, or if you're having trouble sleeping. But be careful. Too many girls get too fond of it. I've seen it ruin more women than men ever did. Another bottle, smaller and darker. This is for emergencies only. If you think you might be in trouble, late. It'll take care of it, but it'll make you sick as a dog for a few days. Come to me first if you're worried. Don't try to handle it yourself. The business-like way she discusses these intimate matters makes them seem less frightening somehow. This is just another trade with its tools and techniques. Now, she continues, closing the box. Let's talk about the business side. You've got the basics down, 50% to me for room, board and protection. That's better than most houses. Some take 60 or even 70. You keep track of your own money. I suggest finding a good hiding place, not in your room where customers can find it. Where do you suggest, you ask? She smiles slightly. I keep a safe in my room. You can leave money with me if you want. I keep honest books. She taps one of the ledgers on her shelf. But some girls don't trust anyone. Up to you. You think about it. Sadie seems fair, if hard, and she clearly runs a tight ship. I'd like to use your safe, if that's all right. She nods, seemingly pleased with your decision. Smart girl. Now let's talk about classes of customers. You're new, so you'll get mostly the regular working men. Miners, cowboys, labourers. They're usually quick and not too complicated. As you build a reputation, you might get higher class clients, businessmen, mine owners, even the occasional government man passing through. She leans forward, her voice serious. The higher the class, the more particular they are, but they also pay better and sometimes give gifts. Treat them special, remember their names and what they like. That's how you build regulars. How much should I charge? It feels strange discussing the price of your body like it's a yard of fabric or a pound of flour. Standard rate for basics is $2 for working men, $5 for businessmen. Anything special or that takes longer, you charge more. Use your judgment, but don't undercut the other girls. We've got standards to maintain. The coldly practical nature of the conversation is almost a relief. This isn't about shame or sin or any of the things Mrs. Holcomb would preach about. It's just business. One more thing, Sadie says, her voice softening slightly. Find something else to think about when you're with them. A place you like, a happy memory, a plan for the future. Don't let this job get in here. She taps her temple. That's how girls end up broken. It's perhaps the kindest thing she's said to you so far, and you find yourself unexpectedly moved. Thank you, Sadie. She waves your thanks away, businesslike again. Just practical advice. Now let's talk about your appearance. You're pretty enough, but you need to learn how to enhance it properly. The next hour is a crash course in the art of the painted lady. How to apply rouge to make your cheeks glow without looking feverish. How to darken your lashes with burned cork mixed with petroleum jelly. How to outline your lips to make them look fuller. Men like a woman who looks healthy, Sadie explains as she demonstrates on your face. They get enough sickness and death in the mines. They come here for life and colour. When she's done, you barely recognise yourself in her mirror. The woman staring back looks worldly, confident, desirable. Nothing like the proper Boston shopkeeper's wife you were 6 months ago. There, Sadie says with satisfaction. Now you look the part. Remember what I showed you. First impressions matter in this business. Back in your room, you practice what Sadie taught you, trying to commit the techniques to memory. The makeup feels heavy and strange on your face, but you have to admit it's effective. Even in your plain day dress, you look like a different woman. A soft knock interrupts your practice. It's Pearl, the quiet brunette from breakfast. Sorry to bother you, she says, hovering in the doorway, but I thought you might want these. She holds out a pair of silk stockings only slightly worn. Charlotte was going to throw them out, just a small tear at the top, see? Nothing that can't be mended. You take the stockings, touched by the gesture. Good silk stockings are expensive, a luxury you haven't been able to afford since Thomas left. Thank you, you say. That's very kind. Pearl shrugs, looking embarrassed. Us girls have to look out for each other. No one else will. She turns to go, then hesitates. Some of us play cards in the kitchen on Tuesday afternoons when it's slow. You should join us. I'd like that, you say, and mean it. After she leaves, you examine the stockings. The tear is indeed small, easily fixed with a few careful stitches. You've always been handy with a needle. Maybe that's a skill you could offer the other girls in exchange for their knowledge. The afternoon passes in a flurry of activity. The whole place is being cleaned from top to bottom in preparation for the evening rush. You're assigned to help Maggie wash all the glassware, while other girls sweep and mop and dust. Payday's always busy, Maggie explains as you dry a seemingly endless parade of glasses. Miners come in with their pockets full and looking to spend. Good money, but long hours. How many customers should I expect? You still have trouble saying the word. Like naming it makes it more real. Maggie considers this. On a regular night, maybe 5 or 6. On payday, could be double that. Don't worry, Sadie won't let anyone work you to death your first week. She's tough, but fair. As you work, Maggie fills you in on the unwritten rules and customs of the house. Who to avoid, the Barlow brothers if they manage to sneak in, a mine foreman named Tucker who likes to leave bruises, any man who won't take off his boots. Who the good customers are, Judge Wilson despite his wife. Doc Harris, who sometimes treats the girls for free, a shy bookkeeper from the mining office who mostly just wants to talk. The best times to take breaks, between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, early morning before the night shift miners come in, where to hide extra money, sewed into a mattress, in a hollowed-out Bible under a loose floorboard. It's a masterclass in survival, delivered matter-of-factly between polishing glasses. One more thing, Maggie says, lowering her voice. If you ever need to get away, really away, there's a woman in Denver who helps girls start over. Name's Mrs. Robinson, runs a boarding house for respectable working women. She doesn't ask questions about your past. Sadie knows about her, sends girls there sometimes when they want out of the life. You absorb this information silently, an escape route if you need it. Good to know. Why are you telling me this? You ask finally. Maggie's hands don't stop working as she answers. You've got that look, like you're just passing through, not settling in. Some girls are made for this life, mate. They take to it like ducks to water. Others, she shrugs, just thought you should know there are options. Before you can respond, the front door bangs open and a boisterous group of men enters. Miners just off shift, their faces still streaked with coal dust, ready to spend their newly acquired wages. Showtime, Maggie murmurs, drying her hands on her apron. Remember what Sadie taught you, and if you get overwhelmed, signal me or one of the other girls. We look out for each other here. The afternoon blurs into evening as more men arrive, filling the saloon with noise and smoke and the smell of unwashed bodies. You circulate as Sadie instructed, smiling and chatting, accepting drinks that you secretly pour into the spittoon when no one's looking. It's overwhelming at first, the noise, the hands that seem to find their way to your waist or shoulders at every opportunity, the crude jokes and cruder propositions. But you find a rhythm eventually, a way to navigate the room that keeps you moving, never trapped in one spot for too long. You watch the other girls work. Charlotte with her brassy laugh and expert flirtation, Pearl quieter but with a mysterious air that seems to draw certain men like moths to flame, Daisy with her vivacious energy always in motion. Each has developed her own persona, her own way of attracting customers. What's yours going to be? You're still figuring that out. For now, you lean on your Boston background, playing up the contrast between your proper speech and your current profession. Men seem to enjoy the novelty of it. A real society lady, one miner says appreciatively after you correct his grammar without thinking. Fancy that in a place like this. By midnight, you've taken 3 men upstairs to your crib room. The encounters are brief, transactional, impersonal. You follow Sadie's advice and let your mind drift elsewhere, to a peaceful day in the Boston Public Garden, to plans for saving enough money to leave, to the plot of the last novel you read before your life collapsed. It works, mostly. You're present enough to ensure the men follow the rules, to count your money afterward, to use the douche powder as instructed, but some essential part of you is elsewhere, protected. Between customers, you find moments to breathe, standing by the back door, letting the cold mountain air clear your head, sharing a quick cigarette with Daisy on the back steps, a cup of coffee in the kitchen with Maggie, who always seems to know when someone needs a break. It's during one of these moments that you overhear a conversation that catches your attention. 2 men at a nearby table, better dressed than the miners, one older with a heavy gold watch chain across his vest, the other younger with the look of an educated Easterner. "The railroad's coming through. Mark my words," the older man is saying. 6 months, maybe less. And when it does, this town's going to explode. "And you've already bought up the land they'll need," the younger man says with admiration. "Brilliant, Mr. Holcomb." Holcomb. The name registers immediately. Mrs. Holcomb's husband, the man who owns half the town, according to Sadie. Smart investing is about seeing the future before others do, Holcomb says smugly. The mine's producing well, but it's the railroad that will make this town, and those who control the land control the future. You drift closer, pretending to clean an empty table. "What about the current businesses?" the young man asks. "Will they be affected?" Holcomb's laugh is short and dismissive. "Some will thrive, those that serve our purposes. Others..." His eyes drift around the saloon, lingering on the girls, on Sadie behind the bar. Others may find that Silver Creek is becoming too respectable for their particular services. A chill runs through you. Is he planning to shut down the brothel? Where would you all go? What would happen to women like Pearl sending money to her children? Before you can hear more, Charlotte appears at your elbow. Got a live one asking for you, she murmurs. Table by the stairs. Looks like he can pay well. You reluctantly leave the conversation behind, filing the information away to think about later. For now, there's work to do. The man at the table is indeed well dressed, a travelling salesman, you guess from his polished appearance and sample case beside his chair. He introduces himself as Mr. Barrett, in town selling mining equipment. Pleasure to meet you, Martha, he says, his smile revealing expensive dental work. May I buy you a drink? And so the dance begins again. But as you flirt and laugh and eventually lead him upstairs, your mind keeps returning to what you overheard. Change is coming to Silver Creek, the kind of change that might eliminate the only steady work available to women like you and your newfound sisters in this rough-edged town at the edge of civilization. You've barely begun to find your footing in this new world, and already it might be crumbling beneath you. Such is life in the Wild West, always uncertain, always balanced on the knife's edge between opportunity and ruin. As you close your door behind Mr. Barrett, you wonder what Sadie would say if you told her what you'd heard. Would she have a plan? Would she fight, or would she simply move on to the next boomtown, the next opportunity? And what would you do if forced to choose? Questions for tomorrow. For now, there's only the next customer, the next dollar, the next step in learning how to survive in a world far harsher than the one you left behind. 3 weeks in Silver Creek, and you're already developing routines. The unfamiliar has become familiar with alarming speed. You wake earlier now, before Maggie's knock, your body's adjusting to the rhythm of brothel life. Sleep during the quiet afternoon hours, work from evening until dawn. The lumpy straw mattress no longer feels strange beneath you. The cold no longer shocks when your feet hit the bare floor each morning. Today, sunlight streams through your small window at an angle that tells you it's nearly noon. You've slept later than usual after a particularly busy night, payday at the mine again, and the saloon was packed until the early hours. Your muscles protest as you sit up. 27 customers in one night, a record you're not eager to repeat. But the money was good. Your emergency fund is growing faster than you'd hoped. Another couple of months like this, and you might have enough to leave to start over somewhere else. Maybe California. You've heard San Francisco is booming. More opportunities for women there, even respectable ones. That thought carries you through your morning rituals, washing your face, brushing your hair, dressing in your day clothes. No need for makeup and fine dresses until evening. Daytime is for chores, meals, and the brief window of normalcy the women carve out for themselves between shifts. The saloon below is quiet when you descend the stairs. Jim the bartender nods as you pass, busy polishing glasses. The tables have been cleaned, the floor swept of last night's debris, cigarette butts, broken glass, the occasional lost coin that Sadie always finds before anyone else. In the kitchen, Maggie presides over a pot of something that smells heavenly. Stew, you realise, with real beef, a luxury Sadie allows after good nights. There she is, Maggie says with a smile. Thought you might sleep through dinner. Nearly did, you admit, pouring yourself coffee. Is that real beef? Sure is. Sadie's in a good mood. Last night was the best take in months. She stirs the pot. Said we earned a proper meal. Pearl and Daisy are already at the table, playing cards. Charlotte is notably absent, probably still sleeping after her own busy night. She had a line of customers waiting outside her door from dusk till dawn. Well, look who finally decided to join the living, Daisy teases. Rough night, Martha? 27, you say, collapsing into a chair with your coffee. Pearl whistles low. Damn, I only had 18. You're building quite the reputation. There's no judgment in her tone, just professional acknowledgement. In this upside-down world, your growing customer base is a kind of success, a validation of your worth in the only currency that matters here. Deal me in next hand, you ask, nodding at their cards. Sure thing, we're playing for hairpins. Pearl shows you her small pile of winnings. I'm cleaning Daisy out. Only because I let you, Daisy retorts with a grin. These quiet afternoon moments have become your favourite part of life in Silver Creek. Just women together, no performance required, no men to please, just coffee and cards and Maggie's cooking and conversation that doesn't require painted smiles. The back door opens, letting in a blast of cold air and Sheriff Parker. He removes his hat as he enters, nodding to the women. Ladies, Maggie, that stew smells like heaven itself. Might be some extra if you've got news worth hearing, Maggie replies without missing a beat, their familiar exchange revealing a relationship more complex than you initially assumed. The sheriff chuckles, hanging his hat on a peg by the door. Caught one of the Barlow boys trying to sneak in through the back window last night. Got him locked up for attempted breaking and entering. Maggie ladles stew into a bowl and sets it on the table. Worth a bowl, I'd say. You watch this interaction with fascination. The relationship between law enforcement and the brothel is clearly more nuanced than you'd expected. There's an understanding here, an equilibrium maintained through mutual benefit. The sheriff sits, nodding thanks for the food. His eyes land on you. Miss Martha, settling in all right? Yes, sir. You reply, still unsure how to interact with him. Is he friend or foe? Protector or threat? Good, good. Sadie runs a clean house. Follow her rules, you'll do fine. He takes a bite of stew, closing his eyes briefly in appreciation. Where's Miss Charlotte today? Still sleeping, Pearl answers. Busy night. The sheriff nods, unsurprised. I need to speak with Sadie. She around? Office, Maggie says, joining you at the table with her own bowl. Everything all right? Something passes across the sheriff's face. Concern, maybe. Just some news from county. Nothing for you ladies to worry about, but his tone suggests otherwise, and you exchange glances with Pearl. Something's happening. After finishing his stew with compliments to Maggie, Sheriff Parker disappears into Sadie's small office at the back of the saloon.